Don't say it. We're all thinking it, but you don't need to say it.
So that's where all the goals went.
Oh my God, you said it anyway.
No, I couldn't resist. I'm not sorry.
That's right. Vegas Golden Knights win in Seattle over the Seattle Kraken by a final score of 5-2. That was a fun game to watch, and it definitely made up for lost time when, given we only scored one goal in the home opener a couple of nights ago. It's nice to see more than, one goal in over the course of 60 minutes. Lineup for the Golden Knights was exactly as you would expect. It was exactly the same as the home opener, with exception Adin Hill getting his debut start in Golden Knights uniform, going up against the the goalie that can't seem to go away in Martin Jones.
The technically sound Martin Jones.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Anyway, the Golden Knights did not take very long to get the game started tonight. It was basically drop the puck, and by the time I go to grab some nachos, boom, it is 1-0. Now, I know over the last game against the Hawks, I got on to Keegan Colasar. I called him 7-Eleven because he's always open, and because of that, he's never able to close. Well, it took him a whopping 12 seconds to take that context and throw it right back in my face, because Keegan Colasar opens the scoring. Starting off with the fourth line is always something that's kind of one of those things that's up in the air. It either works really well or it doesn't work at all. And so far for the Knights this year, it's worked incredibly well, and they were finally able to cash in. They won the faceoff, got the puck in deep. William Carrier forces a turnover on the half wall, kicks it out into Colasar, who found a soft spot. He essentially one times it past Martin Jones to put the Golden Knights up 1-0. So, barely in your seats, home opener, 12 seconds into the game for the Seattle Kraken, and they're immediately behind. Couldn't have think of a better start for the Golden Knights, and couldn't have thought of a worse start for the Seattle Kraken. Stat line reading: Colasar, his first of the year, from Carrier at 12 seconds. Now, that 12-second mark makes it the second fastest goal to open up a game in Golden Knights history. So, history, cool, fun. Good way to kick off Season 6. And then didn't take long for the stat sheet to get filled up with more stuff, as Alexander Wenberg took a high-sticking penalty at 2 minutes and 2 seconds of the first period, putting the Golden Knights on their first power play,
which still needs to be better.
So the Golden Knights go onto the power play, and clearly the offense keeps on going, and the power play does manage to improve as they find pay dirt in the form of Jonathan Marchessault, putting the Golden Knights up 2-0 early on. It was all kind of one of those chance freaky plays that just happened to work out really, really well for Vegas. The puck was kind of on a messy zone entry. Puck is just traveling towards the blue line to exit the zone, and it just so happens that Alex Pietrangelo was coming in as a late trailer, takes the puck, finds a soft spot, who feeds it across the ice to Waugh on the right circle, and ultimately he could either shoot it past Jones there because he had Jones sold out, or he took the heady play and saw Jonathan Marchessault camped out on the back door. And it was just the ultimate in tic-tac goal from Pietrangelo to Waugh, Waugh to Marchessault, Marchessault to the back of the net, putting the Golden Knights up 2-0. Stat line reading: Marchessault, his second of the season, from Waugh and Pietrangelo at 3:07. Now, from that point on, all the adrenaline kind of kicked in, and Seattle realized, wait a second, we might want to try and do something with this game. It is our home opener. We only get one of these every year. So they kind of dominated the period from that point on, from when the Golden Knights scored their second goal. But to that effect, not a lot happened in the middle of the first period. Nothing else really happened of note or on the stat sheet until Alec Martinez took a cross-checking penalty at 16:24 of the first period. The Seattle Kraken had a couple of good opportunities, but none of which were really testers for Adin Hill making his Vegas Golden Knights debut. And ultimately, the penalty goes by the wayside. We kill it off. And ultimately, the remainder of the first period is pretty uneventful in terms of scoring. So when looking back at the first period, the Knights really jumped on them early. They got that first goal 12 seconds in, and then they got to the power play because they were pushing the pressure with it being a high-sticking penalty. It was a really stupid high-sticking penalty too. And then ultimately made them pay for taking said penalty, going 1-for-1 on the power play in the period, and looking really good while doing so. Even though we were outshot 11-9 in the first period, we still probably carried the majority of the opportunities early in the period. That being said, we didn't land a single shot in the last 9 minutes of the period, so that's marginally concerning. But again, with a 2-goal lead, the other team's going to press. Odds are you're going to get out of your system a little bit. That's fine. And to that effect, though, a lot of the shots, as has been for the entire regular season and majority of the preseason, the majority of the shots from the opposition are coming from the outside. They're rather low danger. So while Adin Hill has had to make 11 saves, he hasn't really had to work for 11 saves, and there's a very big difference between those two. So ultimately, all in all, very solid first period, despite it being a little sloppy at times. Something to build off of going into the second. And the Golden Knights came out into the second period like they were shot out of a cannon. They looked really, really good right away, pretty early on. It was very obvious that the pace was there. They had a bunch of fast break opportunities that were broken up by good sticks from Kraken defensemen. That was until Chandler Stevenson got in all alone with about 4 minutes into the period and was able to get behind the defense in on a breakaway. It was hauled down. And, obviously it's a penalty. Obviously, Golden Knights to the power play. Wait a second, the ref is pointing to the center ice dot. Chandler Stevenson has been awarded a penalty shot. Yay! And unfortunately, he couldn't do anything with it.
Aw.
But fortunately, it didn't take very long for them to recover from that missed penalty shot, as they were back on it right away, and they immediately drew a penalty. Carson Soucy took a hooking penalty at 6:44. It was drawn on yet another breakaway, this time Keegan Colasar, and unfortunately this time it wasn't a penalty shot, which was kind of sad because it looked kind of close. That being said, power play opportunity looked really good in the first period, going 1-for-1, and for how good that first power play looked is how bad this second power play looked. Oh my goodness, they couldn't even get in the zone. They couldn't get any zone time. They couldn't even get out of their own zone with an extra guy. So that being said, that was basically 2 minutes of wasted hockey, which is, that's not great. So then ensues another couple of minutes of basically nothing, back and forth, chip and chase, a little bit of physicality, not a lot of physicality, a couple of takeaways, a couple of giveaways, hockey. That is until Carson Soucy decides, you know what, I need a water break in the penalty box again, and decides to take a cross-checking penalty at 13:47. And this is where stuff starts to happen for the Golden Knights. Now, it's the third power play attempt of the game. Power play is a big thing. I made a huge deal of it last game, or over the last game. And so now we have the opportunity to get something going. And holy moly, it didn't take very long for the Knights to get something going on this power play, as Riley Smith puts the Knights up 3-0 on the power play. This is a textbook Bruce Cassidy Golden Knights power play goal. One face-off to Eichel. Eichel lets everybody set up, feeds the puck below the net to Mark Stone, who draws a lot of attention from everybody in the lower slot. They collapse on him. He makes a power move to the front of the net. I'm convinced he was trying to shoot it here, but, happy accident, I suppose. Puck comes off of his stick as if it was a perfect pass to Riley Smith, who goes short side, top shelf, top corner on Martin Jones to put the Golden Knights up 3-0. It's a really good goal for Riley Smith, given that he kind of had an off year coming back off of injury. So getting a good goal on the power play with that top power play unit, and ultimately getting his scoring campaign started this early in just game number 3, it's good all around. Stat line reading: Smith from Stone and Eichel at 13:55 of the second period. First off, that's a really expensive goal in terms of cap space. And second off, that is by no means the end of the fun for the Golden Knights late in this second period, as just a few minutes later, Jonathan Marchessault will just take a seemingly harmless pass in the neutral zone and walk down the left wing, the near boards, and just go all the way down to the goal line. We have to expect everybody watching the TV expects him to either take it around the net or pass it out into the slot, waiting for a teammate who would be coming in. Nope, he banks it off of Martin Jones's leg and in.
The technically sound Martin Jones, baby!
Dude, these guys don't even know what that means. Are you going to enlighten us, or are you just going to keep yelling technically sound at the top of your lungs? Fine, I'll share with the class. So, story time. The technically sound Martin Jones joke comes from Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals in the 2017-18 playoffs. Fresh off the Golden Knights sweeping the LA Kings and the San Jose Sharks sweeping the Anaheim Ducks in their respective first-round series. It was our 5th ever playoff game of that inaugural season, and the goaltending matchup in that game was Marc-Andre Fleury versus Martin Jones, who at that time played for the Sharks. And there was this big brouhaha made by NBC Sports announcer Eddie Olszak saying that, quote, Martin Jones is a really hard goalie to score on. He's very technically sound and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And then Jones proceeded to give up 4 goals in the first 9 minutes of the game and was proceedably yanked for their backup goalie Aaron Dell. So from that point on, every time Martin Jones plays the Golden Knights, he's now referred to as the technically sound Martin Jones. Yeah, that being said, I have no idea where the daylight was on that goal, but the fact of the matter is it wound up in the back of the net, and it's really one that Martin Jones wants back. This is Marchessault's second goal of the night, assisted from Stevenson and Theodore at 17-11. That being said, that's still not the last goal the Golden Knights are going to score in this second period, as just a few minutes later, Shea Theodore seems to put the game entirely out of reach, putting the Golden Knights ahead 5-0. And this is another goal that Martin Jones is going to want back. The technically sound Martin Jones. Dude, you weren't even here yet. You didn't even get to say anything. You don't even know about the technically sound Martin Jones. The only reason you know is because I just told you. This goal was being set up, the game's already out of reach at this point. This goal was set up by none other than Phil Kessel, who has been looking really good this whole season and particularly looked really good this game. So I'm glad that he was able to get on the score sheet. He just simply found the puck behind the net on his own entry and found Shea Theodore in the high slot with a really good pass. He found a soft spot in the defense, both of them did. And ultimately Theodore just rips it home between Martin Jones's legs, 5-0. And at that point, the game is basically over. The fun thing about this is the Golden Knights Defense Corps' first goal of the season, so well done, Shea Theodore. Stat line reading Theodore from Kessel and Eichel at 1943. So, yeah, that's a pretty solid period for the Golden Knights. We were really better on all parts of the ice. Adin Hill looked really good in net despite not really facing very much. The offense looked really, really good. Obviously, they put up 3 goals, although really they only really put up the one on the power play, which is the one I'm going to take away from this game as a whole, mostly because it was the game-winning goal, but also it was a really pretty goal. So it's good on all fronts. We led in shots that period, 15-11, and took the lead in shots overall at 24-22. And I have a feeling there's going to be some changes on the horizon in the third period if you're the Seattle Kraken. I have one question for the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. Why do you bother to put Martin Jones in against the Golden Knights? Because you just are going to pull him eventually. So the Seattle Kraken open up the third period by making a goaltending change, putting in Philip Grubauer. Now, the funny thing that makes the whole technically sound Martin Jones thing even funnier is the fact that in his 24 now starts against the Golden Knights, he has been pulled 9 times. 9 times. What is the point of having a goalie, going with a goalie that is that has a more than 1 in 3 chance of getting yanked from that game because he's given up too many goals? But that being said, we still have a whole period to play. Stranger things can happen. And the Golden Knights really didn't make their life very easy in this third period. They didn't play the world's greatest hockey. It's a 5-0 lead. You can't really do much with a 5-0 lead. It's impossible to give up in 20 minutes unless you completely blow it. And since we're not the Leafs, I don't think there's any concern that we'll be giving up this big of a lead to this kind of opponent. That being said, we tried to make our lives interesting as Justin Schultz finally put the Seattle Kraken on the board to make it 5-1. 18 innings at T-Mobile Park and 2 periods plus a little bit at Climate Pledge Arena, and that's the first Seattle team to score any sort of points tonight? Dang, I thought it was my job to be brutally honest. They grow up so quickly, don't they? It was just a decent passing play. They were able to take advantage of a bit of a defensive breakdown from the Golden Knights and ultimately finally put themselves on the board. Stat line reading Schultz from Burakovsky and Beniers at 13-19. That being said, that wouldn't be the only blemish that Adin Hill would give up because I was really hoping they'd be doing shutouts. Unfortunately, Paul Cotter would take a goal interference penalty at 14:54, and our perfect penalty kill streak would come to an end as Jaden Schwartz would give the Kraken their second goal of the night. It was just a net front tip play. It was a bit of a defensive breakdown, but not that bad. It's a power play goal. You are going to get scored on eventually, and it's not always going to be anyone's fault. And with the subtext of it being late in the third period of a 5-1 hockey game, I'm just going to give everybody a pass on this one. Stat line reading Schwartz from Burakovsky and Dunn at 16-17. Now, the Kraken tried to give us a 6th goal by taking another power play, Gord taking a hooking penalty at 17:04. But by that point, game's over. 2 minutes of power play. Don't really need to do anything with it. There'll only be a minute left in the game after the fact. So nothing happened. Nothing needed to happen. Nobody got hurt. Nobody did anything dumb. That's all we can ask for. And ultimately, that is how the game would end. The Golden Knights winning 5-2. Now, there are a lot of positive things we can take away from this game and a couple of things that I'd be a little wary of going forward. This is the first time in a while that we've been outshot, getting outshot 33-30 on the night. That's probably because we really took our foot off the gas in the second period. We probably could have put up 40 shots this game if we wanted to, but we didn't need to, so we didn't. 65% from the faceoff dot for the night. That's exceptionally good. That's got to be one of the higher faceoff percentage totals for the entire game that the Knights have had in their history. And with faceoffs being something that is always something you can take winning more of, I'll take it. Going 2 for 4 on the power play, just 48 hours after I reamed you guys for having a bad power play. I can't complain. Keep doing it. Do it against do it against the Calgary Flames on Tuesday, and I will believe that the power play has been reformed. And 20 blocked shots shows that the defense is committed to making our goalies' lives easier. Now, I know Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson aren't anything to, look the other way at. They're both really good goalies. But not having to face 20 more shots over the course of the game because your defenders weighed out the body and blocked them is just 20 less shots that you have to worry about going in. Hill looked really good tonight. He looked really good when he needed to. Late in the first period when Seattle landed like the last 9 shots of the period. And then in the second period, before we went on our goaling escapade, and then being left out to dry in the third period and ultimately giving up 2, he looked good, and we can't really blame him for the 2 goals he gave up because the game was essentially over at that point, and everybody is on to Calgary already. So, good game, Aiden Hill, and sure you're not Logan Thompson. You didn't pitch a shutout in a 1-0 win. That being said, you still got a win, and you're still looked on pretty highly in the organization anyway. Power play looked really strong when it worked, and really, really, really bad when we didn't, when the power play wasn't working. So we might want to try and mitigate the extremes. We don't have to score every time, but we have to at least look like a passable power play all the time. Step in the right direction tonight. 2 for 4 is probably going to be one of the best games we have on the power play in a while. I really hope I'm proven wrong by that, but I'm just going to make blanket statements. And I have another question to any GM and any head coach. Why would you play Martin Jones against Vegas? You know what you're going to get. He's going to put in a technically sound goaltending performance, and he's going to give up 5 and get pulled. So maybe he's just a bad matchup because Jones matches up really well with any other goalies. But the second he sees a gold or gray or white and gold sweater coming at him, he turns into a pumpkin. Holy moly. But hey, as a Golden Knights fan, I will not complain about having another goalie's number, especially when you're going to have to play him a couple of times because he's in your division. That being said, just a quick recap, Golden Knights win 5-2 over the Seattle Kraken in the 3rd game of the 2022-23 NHL regular season, moving them to 3-0 to start the year for only the 3rd time in franchise history. If you like the video and keep finding yourself watching these every couple of days, I'm going to keep making them. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.